Hello! Read it here. Today we're going to read a story from our slash nuclear revenge. Now, for our first story. I have promised my late friend that I wouldn't share this story until at least a year after her death. That time has passed, and this is nothing short of beautiful. Cruel, but beautiful. I'm going to switch to first-person POV. This is the story as my late friend told me. I was an only child to two loving parents. Mom had a difficult pregnancy and an even harder labor. It was so bad that the doctor advised that they never try again. Because he didn't want his wife to die, Dad got a vasectomy that was successful. I was sad that I didn't have any siblings, but I had a happy childhood until I was a young adult. When I was in the middle of college, Mom was diagnosed with stage 4 HISOC, high-grade serous ovarian cancer. It's the most aggressive form of ovarian cancer, and Mom's older sister and Mom both died from it. We knew her odds weren't good. I don't know what Dad was thinking. I really don't. But he started an affair with his coworker, a woman just a few years older than me. Coworker started integrating herself into my and Mom's life. She'd go shopping for us, keep the house in order, help me with homework, and even sit with Mom when Mom was going through chemo and Dad and I weren't there. And no, I had no clue at all. I just thought it was coworker being kind to a family going through hard times. Mom fought. She fought hard, but the odds just weren't in her favor. One day, I was visiting her in hospice and we were playing chutes and ladders. Mom got real quiet, and then she told me, "You do know your dad isn't planning to reverse his vasectomy, right?" I was surprised, wondering what she was talking about. "Yeah, I know," I said. "Why?" Mom just looked at me and said, "I think you'd best keep it in mind." We continued playing, and when I left for the night, I kissed her, and she said, "You'll be fine on your own." She died that night. I believe she knew she was going to die that night, and didn't want to scare me. Once again, coworker was right by our side. She helped us plan the funeral, brought us food, helped out around the house, and slowly started moving her things in. It was like putting a frog in a pot of water and having the temperature raised. It was slow. It was gradual. A year or so later, she had completely moved herself in and was part of our lives. I don't remember what made me suspicious enough to start digging, but start digging I did. I learned the affair began shortly after Mom's diagnosis. I was sickened, furious, and saddened. I took out my cell, ready to confront Dad and coworker with the knowledge. But something else struck me. See, during one of her visits, coworker mentioned to Mom and me that she wished to have children with her fiancé. Mom knew that the affair was going on, and she trusted me to spill the beans. But I wanted to twist the knife further. As a result, I decided to play the long game. It was a gamble, one that had a good chance of not paying off. But it was one I was willing to take. I kept my mouth shut. I watched as they courted, got engaged, and married 3 years later. I squealed with delight when they announced their engagement to me, wore a proud smile on their wedding day, and made a toast at the reception. I even took extra steps to hide test results from Dad's urologist in such a way that coworker wouldn't find it, but Dad would. Believe me, I was internally screaming. I wanted the world to know the way they hurt Mom and me during her darkest hour. I got dangerously close several times, but I said nothing, knowing the payoff would be worth it. Time passed. We played happy family. I got married to my awesome husband and had children. Dad and coworker played doting grandparents, but I knew from the pained look on coworker's face that she was bemoaning her empty nest. Just as I was beginning to give up hope, the day came. Coworker and I had started the tradition of getting together for coffee shortly after Mom's death. We'd talk girl things again as I internally screamed. Laugh, cry, love, live. That sort of thing. That day, coworker was sad and sullen. I could tell she had been crying. I asked what was wrong. I couldn't believe my ears when I heard why. She was struggling to get pregnant for years, but assumed it was stress from work. Then her periods started coming fewer and farther between. She decided to go to the doctor and find out why. It turned out she was entering perimenopause, and her chances of successfully getting pregnant had dwindled. The doctor told her, in essence, her childbearing years were over. As I crooned sympathetic noises, coworker said, "It doesn't make sense. We tried so hard to have kids, but I wasn't able to get pregnant. I don't know why." It was then that I knew it was time. "You mean Dad didn't tell you?" I said. "Didn't tell me what?" She asked. I was fighting every chance to smile as I tried playing the "It's Not My Right to Tell" and "I can't believe he didn't tell you" cards until she practically begged me. I should have won an Oscar for my performance. I told her about the vasectomy and that Dad had no intention of reversing it. You should have seen Coworker. She completely deflated like a balloon. Her shoulders slumped. She bowed her head and she sobbed in her hands. I wanted to rejoice. I wanted to rub her face in it. I knew, though, that would make me look like the bad guy. So I hugged her and rubbed her back, telling her Dad was horrible for not telling her, that she deserved a different outcome, and that he completely wasted her time. Again, I was fighting to not smile. When she left, I told her I would always be there for her. But I knew she wasn't going to be part of my life anymore. Why would she? I was the daughter of the man who betrayed her. Once she had left and I was alone, I wept with joy and relief that it paid off, but also deep sorrow that Mom hadn't been there to see it. That was the last time I saw or talked to Coworker. A few weeks later, Dad called me in a fury. Coworker had packed her bags and left, slapping him with divorce papers. She yelled at him for not being honest with her, that he had a vasectomy he had no intention of reversing, that he knew she wanted kids, and that she had wasted all of her childbearing years, and that he had left it to me to tell her. He then said, "How could you do that to us? We loved you." I then said in a cold tone, "You and Mom did a good job teaching me how to keep secrets." I hung up and that was it. I never spoke to him again either. Last I heard, he and Coworker were divorced and everyone shunned him because of his keeping the secret. I know I won't be joining Mom after I die. What I did was cruel. It was horrible. I should have done what Mom wanted and spilled the beans beforehand instead of wasting Coworker's youth and childbearing years. Even if she could adopt, she'd probably die before her children were fully grown. Although, it's hard to have compassion and mercy for a woman who integrated herself into my dying mom's life as she was screwing Mom's husband. TLDR, my friend's father had an affair as his wife was dying of cancer. His AP wanted children while he had a vasectomy. He had no intention of reversing years before the affair began. Friend waited until AP's chances of getting pregnant were nil before telling her about the father's vasectomy. AP filed for divorce and friend cut off contact with both the AP and her father. Let's hear from the comment section. Comment 1. What? So this moron kept his vasectomy a secret for decades and then blamed his daughter for not ratting him out decades ago? Even if you put the affair aside, how do you not have any conversation about having children with your wife who really wants children for decades? The only explanation I can think of is the father has been lying to his wife for decades and gaslighting her into thinking she's naturally infertile. I mean, pregnancy is something you discuss with your husband. She told him all about how she wants children, and this lunatic just pretends he's totally fertile. He planned to keep his wife blaming herself for his own infertility until he freaking died. All those things that people blame that guy on were true. He absolutely hid the truth from his wife until his daughter revealed it decades later. He wasn't framed. He was given rope and he tied his own noose with it. Comment 2. Coworker banged a married guy with a wife dying of cancer and stepped right into that dying woman's place like nothing happened. It must have been awful for the mother to watch this woman try to take her place while the mother was still alive. The mother probably thought the information she gave her daughter would be helpful when daughter was ready to eject the sleaze, maybe in a few months, maybe a year. But of course, the daughter did something better. She withheld information from the sleaze that would have allowed her to eventually acquire the one thing she wanted more than someone else's husband, her own biological offspring. The daughter crushed that sleaze's hopes and dreams. What I like about this is that the daughter left the world a better place. That sleaze caught a Darwin Award trophy. She got removed from the gene pool by her own sleaziness and stupidity. Comment 3. Honey, it wasn't your marriage or responsibility to know or tell. Your dad is an asshole who emotionally abandoned his first wife, then allowed his second wife to suffer the agonies of infertility that weren't her fault. Your stepmom could have held off acting on her feelings for your dad until your mom died. But she didn't. Your dad deserved what he got. So did your stepmom. Comment 4. This is the story the coworker got. My wife and I were preparing for a divorce when she got diagnosed with cancer. We knew her chances are survival or slim and decided not to go through with the divorce. At this point, we were just friends and she is happy that I have moved on and won't be alone. When she inserted herself into the picture, and no one seemed to have a problem with it. It backed up the father's story. I could blow up my ex-husband's life if I ever told his wife the truth about her relationship with my ex. She is 30+ years younger than him, and he got her pregnant. I know for a fact that she believes we had been going through the divorce process for years before they met and had not settled the financials. In truth, I filed for divorce 2 months before she gave birth. Her whole pregnancy, he pleaded with me to give him another chance and even wanted me to help raise this child. She is clueless to many truths behind their relationship. Now, for our second story. Aunt broke my model kit, so I took away her everything. This whole thing started exactly a year ago, but just ended, and a friend told me to post here, so off we go. I live in Turkey, and as you know, southeast of my country was wrecked by a couple of giant earthquakes a year ago. My city was the epicenter, and while the house I lived with my family wasn't destroyed, a lot of shells got knocked off, and one of them was the one where I held my Gunpla kits. Out of all the kits I had, only one survived a MG-the-O that was heavily customized. I had built it with my grandfather who passed away a few years ago, so I was ecstatic it survived. A few months after everything had calmed down, so my mother called her relatives for dinner, which included Aunt B. Not for bitch, her name does start with the letter B. She came alongside her son, which is 8, and is an entitled brat. While the adults were drinking coffee, this little brat barged in my room and demanded to play with my computer, which I refused since I was editing a video for my college society and had the camera on. Well, the brat went back crying to her mother, who came and started yelling at me. While I was dealing with her, her little brat climbed my desk and took my model kit, then immediately dropped it and stepped on it. Rest is just yelling, me swearing them up and down, and telling them they were going to pay for it, with her calling me a weirdo for still having toys, and that she wasn't going to pay for shit. My mother was as first a bit not into making her pay to keep peace, but when she realized it as the kit I made with my late grandfather, her father, she was angrier than I was and went out for blood. We took the case to a friend of ours who is a lawyer that specialized within family cases, and they told us since my camera caught it all, we would definitely win it, but it was better to come to an agreement out of court in a settlement since it would be cheaper. I pulled out a price list of the kits I needed to make an exact replica of the one that was destroyed, and it came just about $1,000 US, which came to about $25K to $27K try with the exchange rate. Well, she refused, so we took her to court. She pulled all kinds of bullshit to not pay and delay, but the judge ended up making her pay $1,650 US plus an order for her to pay any border taxes on the replacement kits alongside the court and lawyer fees. It completely fucked her savings, and her husband, who was already waiting for a chance to divorce her, took it. When it all ended up, she had nothing and even lost her brat's custody to her ex-husband, and she not only lost the down payment she had for a house, she lost all her savings and didn't get alimony from her husband. Am I happy her life got completely fucked? No, not really. Do I feel sorry it happened? Not in the slightest. She and her crotch goblin fucked around and found out. It's that simple. I feel bad for her husband, though. He's going to be the one trying to make that brat into a normal person, and I don't envy it in the slightest. Hey, I'm not sure if this is how updates are done in this subreddit, but the shitstorm continued, and some people were asking for updates, so here it goes. Well, the time judge gave my aunt to pay what she owed me came and went, but she didn't make any payment at all, so we legally had to push the case into legal collectment. Cops went to her house, but she wasn't there. She was in her house, but didn't make any noise, so cops had to leave and get a search permit to enter to look for her. They found her inside, having sold her everything and ready to illegally leave the country to not pay anything and start a new life abroad. When they were apprehending her, she attacked the cops, actually clawed the eye of one, causing permanent damage and adding multiple charges to her file. She was taken to court again, this time for more crimes alongside not making a payment in time the court told her last time. I'm not sure if I can legally list all the things she was charged with, but in the end she got 18 years and 9 months jail time with no chance of parole until the 15th year. And yes, since she had sold her everything to leave the country, the court took the amount she had to pay us, recalculated to today's tax numbers and exchange rates, before putting the rest of the money in an account that her son would get when he is 18. As for her brat, in the first post, I had told that when her husband divorced her, he had gotten custody. Well, the kid's personality was so bad, he took him to a psychiatrist, which decided because of my aunt's shitty parenting, he was showing personality issues. He is now in a pre-military boarding school for troubled kids, which he hates completely. As for the money, I would love to say I used it to get the parts necessary to remake that kid, but I had to put it in a saving accounts. The government recently changed border tax systems, so the previous money became a substantial amount with the new numbers, like hilariously so. As much as I would love to spend it all on Gunpla, I have to think about future, so it's going to stay in a savings account getting fatter by the day until I graduate. Let's hear from the comment section. Comment 1. This is nuclear indeed. More because of the fallout than the blast itself. Comment 2. This is probably the best outcome possible for the little kid. I have always considered raising kids to be this way, as a form of abuse, and it's really sad it happened to him. I hope he's able to recover from this. Comment 3. My cousin accidentally spilled orange juice over my Sega Mega Drive/Genesis. Completely fucked it. Some also splashed onto my main controller for my N64, Official 1 Blue, making the button stick. Had to use my shitty orange Mad Catz controller for a couple months. Thankfully, I got used to it quickly and got a new controller soon after. It was an accident, so I wasn't mad at her. But it's always pissed me off that my aunt and uncle didn't replace my console and controller. I'm still unreasonably angry about it to this day. Broke my heart when my dad made me sell all my old Mega Drive games. Especially since I saw a Mega Drive a few weeks later at a car boot sale for £25. I had the money, I could have bought it, but I didn't have any games anymore. It's been 20 plus years FFS. Why does this still hurt? An Opie of Sharon update. Now, for our third story. Decline to pay me after I help you pass your exam. Have fun getting deported. So, this happened a couple of years ago during COVID when everything was online. A mutual friend, let's call him D, reached out to me, absolutely desperate. He was on the verge of getting deported because he had already failed his coding exam twice. One more failure, and he wouldn't be able to stay in the country. He knew I was good at coding and begged me to take the exam for him. He told me how his entire future depended on it, how he had no options left, etc. Feeling a bit sorry for him, I agreed, on the condition that he would pay me $500 for doing it. He agreed immediately, so I spent a couple of weeks preparing. The exam was proctored over Zoom, and we set it up so that I could control his computer remotely while he pretended to take the exam himself. We pulled it off without a hitch, and he passed the exam. Afterward, we went out for drinks to celebrate. Each paid their own share, because I didn't want him deducting anything from what he owed me. Here's where things went downhill. He gave me $100 up front and promised to pay the remaining $400 in a couple of weeks after he sorted out his graduation stuff. Weeks turned into months, and he kept dodging me with excuses. After 6 months of this, it became clear he wasn't going to pay me back. I gave him multiple warnings to pay me or I'll report him, but he kept taking it lightly and blocked me. I was pissed. I helped him out, and he completely ghosted me after getting what he wanted. So, I decided to take matters into my own hands. First, I reported him to his university for academic misconduct. I explained in detail how I was the one who took the exam for him and provided evidence to back it up. They investigated and failed him retroactively, which meant he couldn't graduate. Since his visa was tied to his student status, this basically screwed him over completely. Some context. It was an anonymous tip-off to the college with a fake email with all the proof. They called him and gave him a chance to retake exam on the spot, but guy never studied and failed at the most basic stuff. But it didn't end there. He was still living in the country illegally, hoping to somehow fix things. I knew he had no way out, so I anonymously tipped off the authorities, saying there was an illegal immigrant involved in suspicious activity living in my area. They came, found out he was there illegally, and he got deported. Context. As for deport, I felt a bit scared in case he tried to hurt me in some way, so I made sure he never set a foot in there again. Now some mutual friends are saying I went too far, that it was a petty move to ruin his entire life over $400. On one hand, I feel like he deserved it for trying to scam me. I wouldn't have mind if he came clean saying he doesn't have money or financial capacity to pay, and he was sorry. I would have let the matters go without a hitch. I posted on other sub, AIDA, but started getting death threats. I feel like you guys here wouldn't mind this. Let's hear from the comment section. Comment 1. It's not about the money. It's about sending a message. Comment 2. Listen, Michael. Is this business or personal? Because if it's business, I'll go away happily. But if it's personal, I'll go away, but I won't be happy. It's personal. Comment 3. Exactly. Once the first guy gets away without paying, then nobody pays. You have to be brutal because it's not only about this guy, but it's also about everyone that will ever owe you money going forward. It's like no one here has ever worked for the mob. WTF? Comment 4. If those mutual friends think $400 is nothing, they should have paid it for him then. Not sure I'd go that far, but I've had someone owing me £5, well, the whole way he went about it and the communication afterwards be the last straw in how I think of and treat him, so I understand the frustration inherent in someone ignoring the terms of an agreement they made with you. Comment 5. Same. I have one friend that always agrees to pool money, but when it comes time to pay, she always has some excuse or something else. Now I see her as such a sketchy flake, and I refuse to pool money with her. And I make it known to all our friends that I refuse. Comment 6. Definitely nuclear. Just curious, OP. Did you face any consequences for having taken the exam for him? Or did you manage to provide the evidence without incriminating yourself in any way? Because that's the extra step that takes this revenge into nuclear territory, non-mutually assured destruction. Now, for our 4th story. Kill my cat. Get smashed. This is a story from my childhood. I lived in a small suburban neighborhood in the 90s. We had 2 dachshunds we kept in a backyard fence, and 3 cats that just roamed our 1/8 acre corner lot in my subdivision. Of the 3 cats, Magic was the matriarch. She was a big fat black cat that didn't really run from any neighborhood cats or dogs. Our neighbors across the street had a pit bull that they would let roam the neighborhood. It was never aggressive towards me or my friends, but also was not a friendly dog. We just stayed away from it when playing in the woods. One day, that pit bull charged my cat while I was in the yard playing. It began to whip its head back and forth, shaking Magic, and I ran in to get my dad. We didn't have a gun for home defense. My dad kept a 4-foot-long galvanized steel rod that was about an inch thick next to the door, though. I've never seen him move that fast. He was on that dog in about 5 seconds flat. I remember seeing him strike the dog probably 3 times before it let go of Magic. My dad said, "Come here, Doxy. We are going to the neighbor's house." He was pissed, shaking. When I got closer, I could see that the dog's skull was completely smashed. You could see blood and gray matter. It was gnarly. Its eye socket was also smashed. He picked up the dead dog, walked with me to the owner's house. The man answered the door and said, "What did you do to my dog?" And my dad said, "The same goddamn thing you're gonna do to you if this happens to one of my kids." They never got another dog, we never saw them again, and they moved about a year later. Edit, I might be lost. I felt like the nature of dragging the bloody dog back to the owner and threatening them with the same for killing the cat was revenge, but maybe not. I also always get these comments about animal cruelty and being a psycho or something when I've posted this story on Reddit before. I don't think you all understand how much this marked me. I focused on facts in this post, not feelings, because the feelings are very painful. It was 30 years ago now, and I can still remember very minute details of the scene. And I remember going on a roller coaster from terrified I was going to die, to scared my dad was going to die, to scared/sad about Magic and the dog, to scared about confronting the parents, and then to a deep mourning for my favorite cat. Even to this day, it's the best cat I've ever had. Not sure why you expect this to be some kind of morality tale. It's just what happened. Let's hear from the comment section. Comment 1. This happened to a good friend of mine. Neighbor's shitty dog killed his beloved cat right in front of him. Neighbor's response was, "Yeah, but what are you going to do? Dog laws are very lax there." I would have told him, "If your dog sets foot on my property ever again, it's dead." Comment 2. I used to live next to neighbors that had a poorly behaved pit bull that would hop our backyard fence effortlessly. We talked to our neighbors about it, but they would just shrug like they couldn't do anything about it. One day, it hopped the fence while my kids were playing in the backyard, chased our cat, and got him at its mouth. My cat wasn't going to go down without a fight, however. When I managed to get out to the backyard, I saw that my cat had flipped itself over while still in the dog's mouth, clamped down on the dog's nose with his mouth and front claws, and was actively kicking the inside of the dog's mouth with his back feet. It only took a few seconds of that for the dog to let my dog go. Fortunately, my cat was shaken and not harmed, and I will never forget his "that's right, motherfucker, bring it" expression after the ordeal. What's even funnier is I swear the rest of the neighborhood cats started paying deference to my cat because he fought off a pit bull. I even witnessed a new cat try posturing against mine, only to have the neighbor's cat talk him out of it. When I got a new kitten, the rest of the neighborhood cats didn't do anything about it because my cat approved of it. Comment 3. I really hate condoning violence on animals, but I can't fault the man on this one. In all honesty, this was almost entirely on the head of the dog owners for having a pit bull. While cats shouldn't be allowed to roam, they don't pose a serious threat to every person outside like a pit does. Anyone who decides to let barely hinged dogs run free needs to be hit with same galvanized steel rod. It's just a shame the dogs pay for it and the dumbfuck owners just do the same thing again. Comment 4. This wasn't exactly revenge. It was a spur-of-the-moment reaction in a high-stress situation. At best, it's technically killing in the defense of a pet/loved one, though it's still justified. From what it appears from the story, the neighbors weren't very good owners of the dog, letting him run around as aggressive as he was. I'm not going to say the dad was wrong for what he did, but I will say that it was a completely unavoidable death for both Magic and the pit bull, and it's the neighbors who are entirely to blame here. Thank you for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe to see more.